Alright guys, so today is currently January 14th, 2025, and today we took a trade on the Nasdaq. Unfortunately, it was on a demo account, however, I thought the execution was perfect. So yeah, let's just get into it. So on the 1 minute time frame, we have the SMTs on Nasdaq going up, and on S&P 500, it's going down, right? So at this point, I'm looking for price to continue lower because we also have an internal model right here. We sweep the previous high, form SMT inside this order block, and we get a displacement lower, forming a break of structure and a fair value gap, right? So at this point, I'm like, okay, I think the draw on liquidity is this low over here. And I honestly thought, like, look, if price just runs down here, I'd just close out the trade, or I would close out the limit orders. But price ended up reversing all the way back up into this fair value gap right over here, which is where I placed my limit order for 5 contracts short. And honestly, I thought we were going to get stopped out, but you know what? We stuck to the plan and price continued lower. So around this area right here, I think, yeah, around this area right here was when I actually took off 4 contracts. And I just left the rest running. So yeah, I mean, not too much to say about this trade. SMTs formed, we swept, broke structure lower, formed fair value gaps. We also got displacement, and we just set our limit orders and waited for the entry to get executed, right? We took partials right over here, 4 contracts off, and the rest was a runner left at this low right here, right? And as you can see, price ended up just completely dumping even lower. But you know what, this was a pretty clean trade, and yeah, anyways guys, I'll catch you in the next one. All right guys, so today is currently January 15th 2025, and this morning I took a short position trade on Nasdaq. So yeah, I'm just gonna get straight to the recap. So on the 1 minute time frame, we had a swing low, we did break lower, created a break of structure. There wasn't really much displacement, but I ended up taking the trade after price rejected off this inverse fair value gap, right? I just wanted to see what price would do around this area. And yeah, once I saw this rejecting, I decided to just, pull the trigger on the short positions, and we went 5 contracts short. Another confluence was we had SMTs up here. So at this point, I was honestly looking for price to continue lower. And actually, price, I didn't end up taking my full TP. Like, this was my initial TP, right? But then I was in this trade for quite a long time, and price started to consolidate, right? And started to range in this area. As you can see, we literally came down to this area like once, right? So at this point, my TP was here, right? We come down here, we retrace all the way back up, and we go back down, right? We go back up, and then at this point, I'm just sitting there. I'm starting to get a little bit emotional, which is why I actually minimize or reduce my stop loss, right? Because I started to lose hope in this trade, and I actually moved my TP to this swing low over here in hopes that price would hit this one more time, right? And eventually, dude, when I saw this candle like spike all the way up, I thought I was going to be taking a loss for the day, which really sucked because, you know, at some point we were up like 400 something in this area, right? And then back to negative multiple times. That really sucked, but you know, we were able to stay disciplined, and yeah, I mean, we minimized risk. We minimized risk. We honestly, like, I think this trade I did pretty well in terms of controlling my emotions. I didn't like exit out of the position too early, you know. And yeah, I mean, honestly, I was aiming for low hanging fruit here. Like, I was content with this. But the second price, like the second I move my TP to the swing low over here, price displaces all the way down and like hits our initial TP, which honestly sucks, but you know what? It is what it is. That is a $300 difference, but we're up on the day. Gotta start small, guys. Like, honestly, last video, I did say I wasn't gonna trade on my Express Funded account or trade any prop firms, but I don't know, these past couple days I was trading the demo account and I felt very disciplined, right? I was able to sit on my hands, wait for the perfect entry. I mean, this one, it wasn't like great, but for the most part, it met my criteria for in terms of like a bias, right? For the entry, I kind of just took a market order after I saw rejection off this inverse, but overall bias was still for price to continue lower with confluences like the rejection and SMTs, right? So yeah, we made 430 on the day on our Express Funded account, so I thought that was pretty cool. It does suck, we did miss out on a little bit, but you know what? I'm happy with what I got. So yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next trade. Alright guys, so today is currently January 16th, 2025, and today we took 3 trades, 1 in the London session and 2 in the New York session. 2 resulted in losses and 1 resulted in a win, but overall on the day we're currently up around $79 on our Express Funded account, which, you know what, I'll take it. A win is a win, right? But yeah, let's just get straight into it. So basically, the first trade that we took was in the London session, and the whole idea was that, okay, on the hourly time frame, price went all the way up, and at this point I'm looking for price to retrace before continuing higher, right? And we get an hourly sweep. So after the sweep, I'm looking for price to, on the lower time frame, create some kind of swing low, and then we break below it, right? So that's the hour time frame. On the 15-minute, I actually draw a fib from the bottom to the top over here, right? So here is the equilibrium, which is where that was a draw, basically, a draw on liquidity, right? Along with the 15-minute fair value gap that was resting right here. So this equilibrium was my initial TP, right? We'll go straight to the 1 minute. So basically, I did get a bit emotional for this trade, and that's why I ended up moving my TP just to a 1 to 2, right? But this was the original TP. But in any case, we took an L on this trade, so it is what it is. Basically here, we had a swing that formed, we broke structure lower, we displaced lower, and we created a fair value gap right over here, right? And at this point, once the fair value gap formed, I set a limit order at the top of this fair value gap to go short, right? Targeting the equilibrium on the 15-minute, right? As you can see here, we also formed SMTs, but this was after I got entered, but this gave me a little bit more confidence in that price would continue lower. However, you know, we went lower and then we got stopped out before price continued all the way down to our TP. So there wasn't too much to say about this trade. It was kind of just unlucky. Yeah, honestly, for this trade, I was debating on like giving my stop loss a bit more room, but I decided to just stick to the plan, or just to stick with my $200 loss, max loss for the trade. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Overall, this trade I think was pretty good. I followed my plan for the most part. That's honestly all that matters, process over outcome. But yeah, let's just move on to the next trade. All right, guys. So for the next 2 trades, they were both taken in the New York session. And not gonna lie, going into the session this morning, I was a little bit conflicted. And that was because there were 2 scenarios playing in my head. The first one being that this was the hourly sweep right here. And I was looking for a swing low to get, I was looking for the swing low to form, and then, you know, fair value gap to be created, retracement into that fair value gap to continue lower. So basically, the first scenario was price would go lower after sweeping this high. The second scenario was that this down here was a sweep, and then price would, on the lower time frame, create a swing high and then continue higher, taking out this resting buy side up here. But honestly, overall, looking at this, I think, like, I thought that price would more or less likely continue lower, just because there's more inefficiencies right here, right? Or like this 1 hour fair value gap, There's also equilibrium that I was looking for price to potentially draw to. So let's move to the 1 minute time frame. So, you know, as the minutes pass by, I'm looking at this choppy action, right? And in my head, I'm like, initially I wanted to short, but then I saw this as buy side liquidity generating. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I honestly started to think that price would continue higher. And I can tell you now, it did not. For the first trade that I took, it did result, or the first trade in the New York session resulted in a $200 loss. I did get emotional on this trade. Basically at this time, price was continuing higher. I thought price was gonna break out, right, to hit these highs, but it ended up just reversing and I just took a loss like right there. So that kind of sucked. And then, yeah, I mean, that was kind of an unnecessary loss, honestly. As for the second trade, I honestly still believe price would continue higher, right? So here we had a little fair value gap formation, and once price, you know, retraced into this fair value gap, I set my limit order and I set my TP to the top of this fair value gap right here. As you can see, if we play price forward, price actually continued all the way up to this area up here, which was my original TP, and it kind of sucks because this loss was unnecessary, but you know what, it is what it is. This trade was definitely my fault because I got a little bit emotional. But as for this one, you know, we got the entry and we were looking for price to take out this resting buy side as well as to fill out this fair value gap. So yeah, I mean, there was bias there, and you know, eventually price did continue lower. I'm pretty sure it continued, yeah. But in any case, yeah, that'll be it for this trade recap. I'll catch you guys in the next one. All right, guys, so today's currently January 18th, 2025, and yesterday I took a trade on NASDAQ, which unfortunately resulted in a loss. But yeah, let's just get straight into the trade recap. So basically on the 1 hour time frame, we have an hourly sweep, and after the hourly sweep, I'm looking for price to retrace and then either continue higher or lower, right? We'll head on to the 15 minute. I drew a fib from the bottom to the top up here, and we have equilibrium at this area right over here, right? Moving on to the 1 minute, basically the whole strategy is that we had an hourly sweep, price went lower, we broke structure lower right over here. We also got displacement, which created a fair value gap, and that's basically where we set our entry at the fair value gap, right over here. I was looking for price to retrace higher and then continue lower, but as you can see, we unfortunately got stopped out, right? And not gonna lie, guys, I think this is where I went wrong. So basically, during this time, I did see this area forming right here, and I was feeling a little bit emotional, right? I wanted to do a market entry for longs, and honestly, in hindsight, that would have played out, but I didn't want to break my strategy. But the reason why at this moment I wanted to go long was because here we had an order block, we had an SMT, as you can see right here. This is ES, here's NASDAQ. Yeah, SMT's inside an inefficiency, which is the order block, and we also swept these relative equal lows right over here. So after sweeping this, forming SMTs inside the order block, I was expecting price to go higher. However, my entry was going to be a retracement into this fair value gap right here, but we never got the entry, right? And that honestly kind of sucked because, like in hindsight, it would have made money, but you know, I didn't want to break my trading plan. To a certain point, I kind of took the trade just to take the trade, right? I didn't have full conviction in it, but like for the most part, it did meet my strategy. That's why I just took the trade, even though I wasn't too confident in it after seeing this, which I honestly should have just low-key followed my gut and just, yeah. I mean, you know what? It is what it is, guys. I'll show you guys my Top Step history. As you can see, we took the losses right over here. It does suck. We're down like roughly $23 on the week. But you know what? For the most part, I'm not too unhappy, and that's mainly because I followed my plan. I was disciplined. Anyways, guys, that'll be all for now. Please remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. There's also a link in the description below for a free Discord server. I look forward to seeing you guys there. But yeah. Anyways, guys, I mean, if there's anything I've learned this week is, even though if your plan doesn't work out, just stick to it. You know, because in the long run, your strategy is your edge, right? And you feel a lot less worse about taking a loss when you follow your plan versus not following it. So yeah, even though we did end off the week negative $23, I'm just glad I was able to stick to my plan, because, you know, last video I told you guys I was basically gambling, and that honestly sucked. That sucked. But yeah, anyways, guys, I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.